February 2026. The world wakes up to a reality it wasn't prepared for. Headlines scream about precision strikes on Iran and the immediate retaliation that followed. But as missiles rain down on the Persian Gulf, the real catastrophe isn't the fire in the sky. It's the silence in the Strait of Hormuz. For decades, we've been told that American military might is the ultimate guarantor of global stability. We've grown used to the idea that the US dollar is as solid as gravity itself. But what if I told you that this entire 50-year era of dominance was built on a single fragile promise? A promise made in the sands of Saudi Arabia in 1975. A pact that turned oil into black gold for the Federal Reserve. While the American public watches the chaos on the news, they are missing the most important event in modern history. On March 16th, a lone Pakistani tanker quietly slipped through the blockade with a cargo of Emirati oil. It didn't use the dollar. It paid in Chinese yuan. The truth is, the American century didn't end with a whimper. It ended with a transaction. Today, we reveal how the collapse of the petrodollar is about to erase $39 trillion of perceived security, and why China's ghost network is the trap Washington To understand why a single tanker can threaten a superpower, you have to understand how empires actually breathe. In the early 19th century, Great Britain was the undisputed master of the world. They controlled 25% of the planet's land and 20% of the global economy. Whether it was cotton from India, tea from China, or rubber from Malaysia, it all flowed into British ports. But the real secret of their power wasn't just the Royal Navy. It was the pound sterling. Because Britain sat at the center of global trade, the whole world needed their currency to survive. This gave London what we call the exorbitant privilege. They could print massive amounts of money to fund their empire, and yet they never saw inflation at home. Why? Because the rest of the world was forced to absorb every pound they printed just to stay in business. But empires aren't destroyed by losing wars. They are destroyed when they lose their utility. When Britain lost its colonies, the world no longer needed the pound. The demand evaporated, and the system collapsed. Fast forward to 1975. Washington realized that if they wanted to inherit the British mantle, they needed a new global utility. They found it in a substance more vital than spices or silk: oil. By forcing every nation on Earth to buy oil in dollars, the US didn't just become a superpower. It became the world's central bank. It created a machine that allowed Americans to live beyond their means for 50 years, essentially receiving the world's resources for free. But as we saw in the Strait of Hormuz, the world has found a way to turn the machine off. Did you know that for nearly 40 years, the true scale of Washington's financial dependence was a state secret? In 1977, a classified pact was finalized that went far beyond simple trade. Saudi Arabia didn't just agree to sell oil in dollars, they became America's primary creditor. At that time, the kingdom alone held 20% of all foreign-owned US debt. This information was so sensitive that it wasn't officially disclosed to the public until 2016. When the numbers finally came to light, they revealed that Saudi assets were worth over $117 billion. By recycling their oil profits back into US Treasury bonds, the Saudis weren't just partners, they were the life support system for the American economy. This hidden flow of cash allowed Washington to spend trillions it didn't have, keeping interest rates low and the dollar supreme. But now, that life support is being disconnected.
While Washington was busy policing the world with aircraft carriers, Beijing was building something far more dangerous: a ghost network. For decades, the United States used the SWIFT system as a financial weapon, cutting off anyone who didn't follow the rules. But China realized that you don't win a game by following the old rules. You win it by building a new board.
Enter mBridge. This isn't just a technological upgrade. It is a digital bypass of the American century. By the end of 2025, over $55 billion had already pulsed through this system. And here is the kicker: 95% of those transactions were settled in digital yuan. Why would the Gulf monarchies betray their 50-year partner? Because China offered them something America no longer could: progress without lectures.
Beijing doesn't lecture them on human rights. They came with 5G networks, AI-driven smart cities, and advanced military tech with no strings attached. While American soldiers were retreating to hotels like the Burj Al Arab to hide from drone attacks, China was signing currency swaps and digital infrastructure deals. The breaking point came on May 1st, 2026.
The United Arab Emirates officially walked out of OPEC. A nation that had been part of the oil cartel for 60 years decided the old order was dead. They told the US Treasury directly, if the pressure on dollar liquidity continues, we will switch to the yuan. The message was clear. If the US can no longer provide security, the world will no longer provide the demand for its currency. The trap is no longer being set. It has already snapped shut.
To the average person, banking sounds boring. But in the world of high-stakes geopolitics, the SWIFT system is more powerful than a carrier strike group. SWIFT is the global messaging network that banks use to move trillions of dollars every day. For decades, it was seen as a neutral utility. But Washington realized that if you control the pipes, you control the water. By turning SWIFT into a financial weapon, the United States gained the power to erase a nation's economy from the global map with a single keystroke. If you don't follow Washington's rules, you are disconnected. Your assets are frozen. Your trade stops. This kill switch sent a shockwave through the East. Nations like China, Saudi Arabia, and the UAE realized that if their wealth is tied to a system controlled by a single government, they are never truly sovereign. This is why mBridge was born. It isn't just another payment app. It is a decentralized escape hatch. By using blockchain and digital currencies, it allows central banks to trade directly with each other, bypassing Western gatekeepers entirely. The world isn't just tired of the dollar. It's tired of the permission required to use it.
We are often told that the national debt is just a number on a screen, that it doesn't really matter because America can always print more. But the screen is now flashing a warning that cannot be ignored. $39 trillion. This is the current weight of the American debt. To put that in perspective, the US government now spends over $1 trillion every year just on interest payments. Not on infrastructure, not on education, but simply to service the money we've already spent.
For decades, this house of cards stood firm because of the Petrodollar recycling system. The billions of dollars the world spent on oil eventually flowed back into US Treasury bonds. In 1977, Saudi Arabia alone held 20% of all foreign-owned US debt. They were the lenders of last resort, keeping our interest rates low and our standard of living high. It was a hidden subsidy for the American middle class. But the math has changed. If the Gulf nations stop buying our debt because they no longer trust our protection, the interest rates will skyrocket. A mere 2% increase in rates would cost the federal budget an extra $700 billion a year.
Washington will be forced to make a choice that no politician wants to face. Dramatic tax hikes, massive cuts to social programs, or printing even more money just to pay the interest on the old debt. The era of the printing press is facing a cold, pragmatic reality. As the world shifts from paper promises to real assets like oil and gold, the safety net that once protected the American dream is being pulled away. The monopoly is over, and the bill is finally coming due. It's a mistake to think this is only China's victory. The real winners are emerging from the very sands that once underpinned the American dream. For decades, the monarchs of the Gulf were seen merely as gas stations for the West, rich but dependent. But that era is over.
Look at the transformation. Saudi Arabia is no longer just pumping oil. It is investing hundreds of billions to become a global hub for tourism and entertainment. The UAE has reinvented itself as the world's premier financial crossroads, while Qatar has become the center of global diplomacy. They are no longer content being suppliers. They want to be the players. By breaking the exclusive link to the dollar, these nations have regained their most valuable asset: sovereignty.
They realized that the old social contract, security in exchange for oil, was a trap that kept them tied to a declining power. Now, they have the leverage. Together, these states control nearly a third of the world's oil production. If they decide that Washington's policies threaten their survival, they can trigger financial pain that the US hasn't felt since the 1970s. But it goes even deeper. In this new world order, anyone who controls real resources is the new royalty. Oil isn't just fuel. It's the base for nitrogen fertilizers that feed the planet. It's the plastic in every product you touch. The nations of the global South are watching closely. They see that the exorbitant privilege of the printing press is failing. They see a future where trade is settled between partners, not through a middleman in Washington who can flip a switch and freeze your assets at any moment. The new winners are those who have stopped believing in paper promises and started betting on the law of the earth. The center of gravity hasn't just shifted east. It has shifted to those who own the reality of the physical world.
The illusion of security is a powerful drug, but in the fires of the Persian Gulf, that illusion has finally evaporated. For half a century, the deal was simple. Washington provided the shield, and the Gulf provided the demand for the dollar. But as we've seen, the shield has cracked. When the drones attacked and the missiles flew, the world didn't see an American superpower standing its ground. It saw soldiers retreating to luxury hotels like the Burj Al Arab, while their allies were left to face the storm alone. Washington has failed its primary mission, and in the cold, pragmatic world of the Middle East, failure has immediate consequences.
China didn't have to fire a single shot to win this war. They simply waited for the United States to prove itself unreliable. While America preached about values and politics, Beijing offered infrastructure, technology, and a way to trade that Washington couldn't switch off with a flick of a finger. The era of the printing press is over.
we are returning to a world where real assets, oil, gas, and gold, carry more weight than paper promises. The monopoly that allowed America to live beyond its means since 1976 has reached its logical conclusion. The shift won't happen in a single day, but the momentum is irreversible. As the Gulf nations begin to dump their US debt and price their energy in yuan, the financial gravity of the planet is shifting east.
The world is no longer waiting for American permission to move forward. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the changing global order. If you found this analysis valuable and want to stay informed about the forces shaping our future, please subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell. Your support helps us continue to bring you the stories that the mainstream media often ignores. Until next time.